We up Dave Baby Cortez on the organ. Countdown was the name of that tune. Isn't that's, oh, Carol, music has fallen so, no, I'm just kidding. But that was really good music from long ago. Guess what, kids? There's lots of really good music from long ago you ain't never heard before. Wow, what a shocker, right? Why don't you go look backwards every once in a while? Look to your history. I've been reading about World War II, Carol. I told you that, right? Man, it is just depressing. This was the most depressing book. Human Smoke is what a Nazi general once described the ashes from the crematorium as they came into his prison cell when he was arrested towards the end of the war. But there's lots of really good stuff about how they got there and the way that innocent people suffered. Refugees, immigrants being turned away, all kinds of death and destruction, starvation. Churchill really liked starving people, Carol. He wanted to starve the German population. It's called the subtitle, The Beginnings of World War II and the End of Civilization, because it's one of the first wars, in modern times anyway, in civilized times, when they deliberately went after massive numbers of civilians. Churchill was such a jerk, evil guy. I mean, strong in some ways, but there was this evil current of refusing food to children in France, occupied France, you know. He blocked ships that Quakers and pacifists were trying to send to children, right? Anyway, you gotta stay, it's just reminding me. Okay, the point, Carol, was look backwards. Look to history. You'll learn things that can be useful now, right? Very useful now. All right, what do we got up here? We got to talk about, put up number 5, would you, Carol? My name's Todd, by the way. This is Monkey Time. We're live on Thursday nights at 8 o'clock. And you can call in. There's the phone number right there. Oh, we didn't put up the phone. No, we didn't. Oh, well, you can call in and Carol will talk to you. That's funny, Carol. Yeah, Carol will take your questions and relay them to me. Or your points, if you have a point you want to make. But, yeah, why on earth would anybody... I was saying this at Obama's speeches too, Carol. And when Obama would give his... he was good at speechifying. Obama was, right? But when push came to shove, he was breaking up immigrant families too, right? He really was. Children were being deported without lawyers in their hearings. At least they got hearings. Trump doesn't even want to give them hearings. But, children were, and immigrants who barely spoke the language weren't allowed access to lawyers under Obama, right? There were long articles about this in 2015, 2016 in the New York Times, all over about how horrible it was, and nobody cared. So it's great that people are caring now under Trump, but really some of us have been consistent. Anyway, let me back up. Why does anybody care about staged publicity events like these State of the Union speeches? They can say whatever they want. You got to look at what they're doing. Trump can say whatever he wants, but we're going to protect the environment. He actually said that crap, Carol, some kind of crap like that. He's gutting the EPA. He put somebody in charge of the EPA that wants to eliminate it. I mean, come on. Even if you agree with the man, don't tell me that listening to state-sponsored publicity events is the way to get understanding about what's going on. It's all surface. And the press loved it, Carol. When he went off on that soldier's widow, went off in a good way, the soldier that got killed. We had great intel from that operation. Nobody in the intelligence community says that there was any intel worth doing. So he's just lying and milking the tears of a recent widow. This was 2 weeks ago that guy died, Carol. 2-3 weeks ago, right? That raid on Yemen. And he's milking the tears of this woman for applause. And everybody's loving it. And then you got the press jumping in going, oh, that's so presidential. He looked really presidential. Yeah, milking the tears for patriotic applause of dead soldiers sure is like the defining characteristic of an American president. Man, the press just jumped on board with it's all surface. Oh, he did really well there. He got lots of applause. You know what that does, Carol? Deadspin. You guys read the sports site Deadspin? Deadspin. Deadspin.com, great site. It used to be one of the Gawker sites. Well, Gawker's gone, but this company's still around. Deadspin had a great piece this morning or maybe it was yesterday, where they just said to the press, "What are you doing, you cretins? All you're doing is encouraging him." By saying he was presidential, and what a presidential moment when he's milking the tears of a recent widow on a raid that never should have happened, that we got nothing from. Then the press jumps on board. Carol, the press is the worst when push comes to shove on the patriotic front. Very, very few mainstream press outlets will hold Republicans or Democrats' feet to the fire on any of this. On war, I mean. Any war. We saw it with Iraq. Kids, you're too young, some of you, but we saw it with Iraq. Everybody in 2003, 2002 was just, yay, invade Iraq. Yes, let's do it. All Washington Post, New York Times, News and Observer. They all bought it. The rest of us were like, can't you not see that this evidence is being fabricated? We saw it. How could I see it? And people, Orange Quarles at the NNO, and all, or it wasn't Orange Quarles, I'm sorry. What was it, Melanie Sill, or I don't know who was back there. But the publisher of the NNO at the time was or managing editors, whatever. I mean, they were just totally on board. As soon as you wave the flag and let blood spill, they're like totally on board. I saw it in Human Smoke too, man. Saw it in Human Smoke too. Yep. Roosevelt did everything he could short of asking the Japanese to bomb Pearl Harbor. And as soon as that happened, everybody jumped on board. It was classic, classic. I'm not saying Roosevelt planned it, but he kind of like, maybe there'll be an attack. Yeah, you know? That's what was going on there. I'm not saying he planned it, but I'm just saying he thought it might happen and decided to not do anything to prevent it, because he wanted to get the United States into the war. You can say that's a good decision or a bad decision, but that's what happened. And we're going to see that same kind of thing here. Watch out, right? That wasn't a false flag, but it was kind of philosophically close to it. Trump is just going to use a false flag. He's going to have some kind of created event that's going to be justified for war, because he knows people are going to love him during a war. All right, put up number 6. Jeff Sessions, right? Beauregard, Jeffrey Stonewall Beauregard, who formed the Klan? Thomas Dixon Sessions, whatever his name is. He committed perjury, almost certainly. He's trying to weasel out of it by saying, well, they asked me if during the campaign I talked to any Russians, but I wasn't when I talked to the Russian ambassador, I wasn't at the same time part of the campaign at that moment. This is Bill Clinton. It depends on what the definition of is, right? Territory. About Monica Lewinsky. This is how they have to parse when they lie, when they perjure themselves, right? Or lie in public in front of the American people. They have to parse it in these weird ways. Bill Clinton had to say, well, it depends on what the definition of is. Is there anything going on between us, is what they asked. Well, at that moment, she wasn't on my jock. Right, Carol? So Bill Clinton got away with it. At that moment, when you asked me the question, I didn't see her licking my you-know-what, his patoot, because that's what she did. That's in the Starr Report, Carol. No, it's a footnote, because back in the 90s, they couldn't talk about this honestly, right? I'm serious. She licked his patoot. It's in the Starr Report, but it's like buried, footnote number 271. So Bill Clinton's going, well, at the moment, she's not licking my patoot, so no, there is nothing going on between us. It depends on what your definition of is. And that's exactly what Jeff Sessions is doing now. Well, at the moment you asked me the question, or at the moment I talked to the Russian ambassador, I was not affiliated with the campaign in that space at that time, at that moment. That's his excuse. He's a lying sack of crap, and he's Attorney General of the United States. One of the first things he did, Carol, is tell the Justice Department to pull back from lawsuits about voter fraud. Not voter fraud, voter disenfranchisement. These Republican laws where they're trying to stop people from voting by doing everything they can to make it harder for people in districts where poor people are concentrated and black people and minorities are concentrated to vote. There are lawsuits going through the courts. One of the first things this racist cracker did is direct the Justice Department to pull back on their prosecution of those lawsuits. And now he's trying to say, well, at that moment, I wasn't really working with the campaign as I was talking to the Russian ambassador, who's widely perceived, if not actually known as, widely perceived as one of their biggest spy, what do you call him in? Well, not so much recruiter. He's constantly, a recruiter. So anyway, so the press loves it when, press loved the soldier thing, that grieving widow. What a disgusting move. This horrible, horrible, disgusting move. And Sessions perjures himself in front of Congress. Just like Obama's national security head, James Clapper, did in front of Congress when asked about how much they were doing surveillance on the American people. And what happened to James Clapper? Nothing. He stayed in his position. At a certain level, and this is what brings us both together. Are you listening, Republican monkeys? Are you listening, Democrat monkeys? Carol, something wrong?
I'm just going to check. The guy was talking about that he couldn't hear something, but I don't know.
Okay, all right.
Me, because I'm not mic'd.
Okay, all right. We might have some audio problems. Give us a call at that number if you can't hear me. You're not supposed to hear Carol. She doesn't want to wear a microphone, but she yells back at me. But anyway, what I'm saying is Republican monkeys, Democrat monkeys, independent monkeys, and there's more of you independent monkeys than either of those two mofos, you know what I mean? Those two parties. Parties, what a weird word. At that level, they can lie in public to Congress and get away with it. You or me, we lie to Congress, we're going to jail. Contempt. But Jeff Sessions, James Clapper under Obama, they can lie through their teeth to Congress and they get zero consequences. Are you with me, Republicans? It's not about Republican versus Democrat. It's about top versus bottom. And we're in the bottom, right? Most of us are. We all think we're kind of in the middle. But we're doctors. One of my phone calls will be to my senators, to my representatives, and locally too, to the North Carolina people. I mean, they can't do a whole lot, but it'll just let them know that you're upset about this, right? And that you want a special prosecutor. That's what you do. That's a good idea. Also include the North Carolina Republican Party, or the local guys in the House here in Raleigh. They'll probably shrug you off, but let them hear it. Look, it just takes a few seconds. Make some phone calls. All right. Can we put up, I can't believe the press loved that soldier thing. God, that was so transparently awful. That poor woman. I get she's feeling grief and, and having the president invite you and, that's great. But, that he lied over and over and over again about that raid, and he's still lying. That's not okay to use a widow like that. Let's do 13. Real quick. You should be very, very on alert about what's happening with Muslim mosques burning down in the United States and Jewish cemeteries having their headstones desecrated. You should be very, very focused on this. This is your second phone call this week. Seriously, if you're not, Jews and Muslims in America are minorities. Now, immigrants of all kinds as well. I mean, I'm assuming you've made some phone calls about Trump's horrible immigration policy, which is just a ramping up and expansion of Obama's horrible immigration policy. See, Republicans? I mean, we were there from the start on this crap. You don't break up families by deporting people who have not broken the law in America and have jobs and pay taxes. You don't do that. That's not your priority. Now they're just going whole hog. But Jews, let's focus for now on Jews and Muslims. This is your second phone call this week. 2 topics. Pick 1 or 2 topics and make some phone calls. The desecration of mosques and Jewish cemeteries in the United States today, this month, the increase, the massive surge in instances we're seeing should be your second focus for phone calls this week. Call every single one of your representatives and tell them you are deeply upset that there are not more clear messages coming from the White House, from Richard Burr, from Tom Tillis, from everybody, that this is not okay. I'm telling you, man, you read about how the Germans started down this path, right? This is a really good book. I've mentioned before that it's just filled with see all those short paragraphs? Each one of those is a separate story. And it's just page after page. It's really easy to read, right? Really easy, quick. All of these are just quick little episodes. Human Smoke, it's one of the best things you can do to understand the people who were trying to stop World War II before it started and the people who really were slavering, salivating is the, I guess, more modern term, to make it happen, to make World War II happen. And you watch the conflict and the people who are salivating to make World War II happen win, of course. But the voices of the people who are trying to stop World War II from happening, right, are just as important, and they get shoved aside in most people's reading about the war. But anyway, this is a really good introductory book about how Germany got to be where it was and how the world got to be where it was. It ends right after Pearl Harbor. So, once Pearl Harbor hits, well, it's all over. But the buildup through the 30s and the early 40s into World War II is fascinating. Okay, sorry, Carol. Your second phone call this week.
There's the numbers.
Call, yeah, there's their first, there you go. Just do it once. If you've never done it before, do it. You will feel so much better about your own power. Yes, they will, they'll make you feel like you don't really matter. If you're lucky, they'll make you feel like at least they care to listen to you. But just keep it short, sweet, and polite. Save the impolite for later, you know what I mean? But for now, polite. Say, hey, these Jewish cemeteries being desecrated and these mosques being burned really, really annoy me. And I want to hear I am not hearing clear statements from Richard Burr or Tom Tillis against this. Clear, repeated. You can't just say it once. You have to go. Why is Richard Burr, why have Tom Tillis, are they not organizing a Senate trip to one of these places? This is disgusting behavior that's going to send America down a very dark path if we don't call it out and stop it now. All right, you ready, Carol? Number 12, real fast. Real fast. I keep saying real fast. That's a lie. I'm lying right to them, Carol. I'm denouncing Trump and Sessions' lies, and I'm lying real fast. Just read this. And for people who are visually impaired, it says, all of Roy Cooper and the NCGOP's HB2 compromises, they're all working behind the scenes. And the business people, the Chamber of Commerce guys, oh my God, they just want this to go away, right? So they can start making bank again. And I understand that position. Who doesn't want to make bank, right? But the Chamber of Commerce people just want to see any compromise that makes the issue go away. And they're leaving out this. All of Roy Cooper and the NCGOP's HB2 compromises, that's the bathroom bill, lack one major essential feature: acknowledging trans citizens have the right to exist in public spaces. They love trotting out the man in the dress thing, the GOP. What they don't like is acknowledging that there are actually young people who were born with female genitals who feel completely out of place in those bodies, transition to men, and now are they look like men, they have facial hair, they have no breasts, they have penises, the whole thing. Even if whether they've gone through a surgery or not shouldn't matter, but the people who even have gone through surgery still would have to use the restroom of the sex they were born into unless they changed the sex on their birth certificate. And a lot of people can't afford the full surgery, right? And you can't just easily change the sex on your birth certificate. The acknowledgement that transgender people exist and have a right to public space is what's missing from all the Chamber of Commerce people pushing to get some kind of compromise, quote unquote, through. All right, that was quick for me, Carol. All right, 10, number 10. This is going to be quick too. How many minutes? 6 minutes. Oh my God, 6 minutes, that's an eternity. That's, what? 5.5 minutes. Let me say again, that's an eternity until we get down to 5. But 6 minutes, 5.5 minutes, that's almost twice as much time as it took for the 2 Academy Awards presenters who knew that Moonlight won to get up on stage and stop the people from La La Land from occupying all that space. It took them 3 full minutes to do that, Carol. I'm sorry, I know people are saying that the man made the mistake. Why is the woman also no longer allowed to host the Oscars? Neither one got fired, but why is the woman also no longer allowed to host the Oscars? And the reason the man made the mistake, he was too busy tweeting and taking pictures. He totally should never be at the Oscars. But the reason the woman should also, who was on the other side of the stage, should also never be at the Oscars is because it took 3 minutes before she, who immediately knew a mistake had been made. 3 minutes. You know how long 3 minutes is, Carol? We are showing them right now how long 3 minutes is. I mean, she screwed up too. Sorry. I know. I don't know that I would have done any better, but I would take the consequences, never being at the Academy Awards again for the rest of my life. That seems pretty minor. Oh, and I love all the white people being so gracious. That was great. Oh, they went on for 3 minutes. And even after they knew something was wrong, the 3rd guy got up and started speaking, giving his speech. I'm sorry, that's not gracious. All right. Tundra. Up in Canada, if you go to my Twitter page, can you find the Twitter thing, Carol? Oh, okay, twitter.com/tmormon, T-M-O-R-M-A-N. Don't have to follow me, but I've got a couple links there. The permafrost up in Canada, this is land that has been frozen, much of it, for 10,000 years, since the last ice age, Carol. 10,000 years, right? This land has been frozen. It's now huge swaths of it. I said swaths, Carol. I used concatenation in a sentence the other day, too. I'm educated. But huge pieces of this land are melting now. And what that's doing is releasing all this debris. And we don't know how many how much greenhouse gas is in the tundra, but it's a lot. By all estimates, or by some estimates, there is twice as much carbon locked in the permafrost land around the world as there is in our entire atmosphere right now. So this is one of those instances where the cycling through of normal heating then causes something that makes the cycle more rapid and larger, and then you get this huge expansion of effects. If all that carbon the sediment is going into the rivers, which go into the oceans, that gets put up into the atmosphere, all that carbon, the gases themselves getting released get put in the air, all that carbon, it's going to start accelerating. We know this, scientists have been saying this. You know, the oil companies have been like, with one eye, they've been like, no, that's not true. With the other eye, they're like, how can we profit off global warming? They've been doing that for decades. Tundra, permafrost, melting across the globe is going to accelerate the changes, and we're going to see even more rapidly changing climate. Last thing, Carol, what did I do for Get Out? Where is that? I think it's number 11. Yes. If you haven't seen it, you really need to see it. This is the horror movie about the black guy with the white girlfriend who goes to visit her parents, and then things start getting really weird and paranoid. It's got a lot of humor in it, but it's not a parody. It's a horror movie. It's horrifying. Yeah, Key and Peele. Well, just Peele. Jordan Peele, half of Key and Peele, wrote and directed it. And he does a fantastic job. I mean, a first-time movie director, just great. All right. We'll see you in 2 weeks. Take care of each other. Write those letters. Make those phone calls.